Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 3, Book 34, number 334. Narrated by Nafi. Ibn Umar told us that the people used to buy food from the caravans in the lifetime of the Prophet. The Prophet used to forbid them to sell it at the very place where they had purchased it, but they were to wait till they carried it to the market where foodstuff was sold. Ibn Umar said, the Prophet also forbade the reselling of foodstuff by somebody who had bought it unless he had received it with exact full measure. Volume 3, Book 34, number 335. Narrated by Atta bin Yasser. I met Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As and asked him, tell me about the description of Allah's apostle which is mentioned in Torah, i.e. Old Testament. He replied, yes. By Allah, he is described in Torah with some of the qualities attributed to him in the Quran as follows. O Prophet, we have sent you as a witness for Allah's true religion, and a giver of glad tidings to the faithful believers, and a warner to the unbelievers, and guardian of the illiterates. You are my slave and my messenger, i.e. apostle. I have named you Al-Mutawakkil, who depends upon Allah. You are neither discourteous, harsh nor a noisemaker in the markets, and you do not do evil to those who do evil to you, but you deal with them with forgiveness and kindness. Allah will not let him, the Prophet, die till he makes straight the crooked people by making them say, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, with which will be opened blind eyes and deaf ears and enveloped hearts. Volume 3, Book 34, number 336. Narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar. Allah's apostle said, he who buys foodstuff should not sell it till he is satisfied with the measure with which he has bought it. Volume 3, Book 34, number 337. Narrated by Jabir. Abdullah bin Amr bin Haram died and was in debt to others. I asked the Prophet to intercede with his creditors for some reduction in the debts. The Prophet requested them to reduce the debts, but they refused. The Prophet said to me, go and put your dates in heaps, according to their different kinds. The ajwa on one side, the cluster of Ibn Zayd on another side, etc. Then call me. I did that and called the Prophet. He came and sat at the head or in the middle of the heaps and ordered me, measure the dates for the people, creditors. I measured for them till I paid all the debts. My dates remained as if nothing had been taken from them. In other narrations, Jabir said, the Prophet said, he, i.e., Abdullah, continued measuring for them till he paid all the debts. The Prophet said to Abdullah, cut clusters for him, i.e. one of the creditors, and measure for him fully. Volume 3, Book 34, number 338. Narrated by Al-Mikdam bin Mahdi Akrib. The Prophet said, measure your foodstuff and you will be blessed. Volume 3, Book 34, number 339. Narrated by Abdullah bin Zayd. The Prophet said, the Prophet Abraham made Mecca a sanctuary, and asked for Allah's blessing in it. I made Medina a sanctuary as Abraham made Mecca a sanctuary, and I asked for Allah's blessing in its measures, the mud and the sa, as Abraham did for Mecca. Volume 3, Book 34, number 340. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle said, O Allah, bestow your blessings on their measures, bless their mud and sa. The Prophet meant the people of Medina. Volume 3, Book 34, number 341. Narrated by Salim. That his father said, I saw those who used to buy foodstuff without measuring or weighing in the lifetime of the Prophet being punished if they sold it before carrying it to their own houses. Volume 3, Book 34, number 342. Narrated by Tawus. Ibn Abbas said, Allah's apostle forbade the selling of foodstuff before its measuring and transferring into one's possession. I asked Ibn Abbas, how is that? Ibn Abbas replied, it will be just like selling money for money, as the foodstuff has not been handed over to the first purchaser who is the present seller. Volume 3, Book 34, number 343. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, he who buys foodstuff should not sell it till he has received it. Volume 3, Book 34, number 344. Narrated by Az Zuhri from Malik bin Aus. That the latter said, who has change? Talha said, I will have change when our storekeeper comes from the forest. Narrated, Umar bin al-Khattab. Allah's apostle said, the bartering of gold for silver is riba, usury, except if it is from hand to hand and equal in amount. And wheat grain for wheat grain is usury except if it is from hand to hand and equal in amount, and dates for dates is usury except if it is from hand to hand and equal in amount, and barley for barley is usury except if it is from hand to hand and equal in amount. See Riba Fadl in the glossary. Volume 3, Book 34, number 345. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet forbade the selling of foodstuff before receiving it. I consider that all types of sellings should be done similarly. Volume 3, Book 34, number 346. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, the buyer of foodstuff should not sell it before it has been measured for him. Isma'i narrated instead, he should not sell it before receiving it. Volume 3, Book 34, number 347. Narrated by Ibn Umar. I saw the people buy foodstuff randomly, i.e. blindly without measuring it, in the lifetime of Allah's apostle, and they were punished by beating if they tried to sell it before carrying it to their own houses. Volume 3, Book 34, number 348. Narrated by Aisha. Rarely did the Prophet fail to visit Abu Bakr's house every day, either in the morning or in the evening. When the permission for migration to Medina was granted, all of a sudden the Prophet came to us at noon, and Abu Bakr was informed, who said, certainly the Prophet has come for some urgent matter. The Prophet said to Abu Bakr, when the latter entered, let nobody stay in your home. Abu Bakr said, O Allah's apostle, there are only my two daughters, namely, Aisha and Asma, present. The Prophet said, I am informed, that I have been granted the permission for migration. Abu Bakr said, I will accompany you, O Allah's apostle. The Prophet said, you will accompany me. Abu Bakr then said, O Allah's apostle, I have 2 she-camels I have prepared specially for migration, so I offer you one of them. The Prophet said, I have accepted it on the condition that I will pay its price. Volume 3, Book 34, number 349. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle said, do not urge somebody to return what he has already bought, i.e. in optional sale, from another seller so as to sell him your own goods.